Welcome to Prime Debate. Anti-corruption crusader Anna Hazare is adamant on carrying on his fast, leaving the central government not only in a fix but virtually down on its knees. The solution is nowhere to be seen. So where do we go from here? The Anna Brigade has taken to the streets with the perception that Parliament as an institution has lost its credibility. Should the matter be left to the masses? Does that call for a referendum, a provision that doesn't exist in our constitution? We find out in Prime Debate. For now, it seems that Anna supporters are dictating the agenda for the government. But while they flock together on the streets, the government is exhorting the parliamentarians to unite, as it's the authority of the parliament that is being undermined.
Entire India is out on the streets, be it young or old, rural or urban, across the country. People are standing up in fight against corruption. These people are fed up with the culture of corruption, and more so by the fact that the establishment has done a little to tackle it. The populace is in direct confrontation with the government. The message to the government is very clear. It's either our way or no way. But is this how things should be? For the government, the situation is nothing less than a nightmare. A quagmire from which it is finding difficult to come out, and it's finding itself at the mercy of Parliament to save it from disgrace.
अगर हम यहाँ बैठे हुए अपने संविधान की, अपने पार्लियामेंट की निंदा करें और एक दूसरे पर आरोप और आरोप लगाएंगे और जो संविधान का ढांचा बना हुआ है उस पे आंच आने देंगे, तो मैं समझता हूं कि हम अपने आप से बहुत अन्याय कर रहे हैं. केवल अपने आप से ही नहीं, देश की जनता के साथ बहुत अन्याय कर रहे हैं.
The government also wants the parliamentarians to be united in this hour of trouble, but that's not going to be easy. The opposition is already reading between the lines.
You are now in a trap, and therefore unwilling to make a statement yesterday, today you have volunteered a statement. And the text of your statement is, can I somehow make it a confrontation between Parliament and the civil society? Well, we are refusing to bite this bait. This is not a confrontation between the civil society and India's Parliament. We are clear in India's Parliament that Parliament alone will draft the law. But if citizens group want to tell us something, we will listen to them. We may accept some of what they say, we may not accept what they say.
The future of Lokpal Bill meanwhile hangs in balance. The Anna camp is adamant on its version of the bill. The government doesn't want to eat humble pie. For the masses, the chosen representatives have lost credibility. Our institutions are getting undermined. So what's the way out? Let the citizens decide for themselves. Is direct democracy an answer?
To discuss more on this issue, we are joined in the studios by Ashutosh Kumar, Professor of Political Science in Punjab University, Chandigarh; Bir Devinder Singh, former Deputy Speaker, Punjab Vidhan Sabha; Dr. Balram Gupta, Senior Advocate of the Punjab and Haryana High Court; and Ratandeep Sandhu, who is pursuing MPhil in Political Science at Punjab University. Welcome to the discussion. Professor Ashutosh, we'll start with you. Do you think the politicians are losing credibility and legitimacy?
Everybody knows that how Parliament has been working over the last few years. I mean, the media has been full of report, like how many days Parliament really work and what kind of level of debate which is taking place, and how the serious legislations are not being taken up carefully by the politicians. They are only like mostly making hue and cry. So that's one. Second, I would like to make one important point.
Yes.
See, the politicians earlier, if you refer to Nehruvian India, they enjoyed legitimacy and they enjoyed the confidence of the people because they had participated in the anti-colonial movement, they were seen as sacrificing, and they also benefited from the traditional power structure. Now the new breed of politicians, they are more like seen as professionals. And these politicians are not really winning election on the basis of ideology or on the basis of certain ideals. They are winning election just by electoral calculation. They are representing the community. They are representing a community of birth. They are not representing the mass which is mobilized on the basis of certain ideals or certain ideology or certain common agenda. So this is one major reason why the new political class, if I can call them new political class, that is not comparable to the Nehruvian political class.
Don't you see a dichotomy of sorts that first we vote for these politicians, and once they're elected to power, then we kind of lose faith in them?
No, what kind of mandate these politicians are getting, that you should always take note of. You know, the winning election has now become a one-off affair. You know, the politicians somehow they try to mobilize. You have this social engineering going on in Uttar Pradesh. You know, the politicians try to mobilize certain communities, and it's a kind of patronage democracy. They win elections somehow, making all kind of combination or permutation. But this is not a long-standing mandate. They are not winning an election on the basis of certain policies or certain clear-cut agenda. So that is one of the reasons why.
So the mandate that the public is giving to the politicians is only a limited
short term. It's a short term. It's a more a kind of result of a kind of patronage democracy, combination of certain factors. You know, the politicians are being favored. Politicians are being given vote. I would vote for a politician because I would think that he belongs to my community. He would do something for my community. He would give me a job. He would bring the roads to my village. I mean, all these.
So when you vote for a politician, you're not thinking of the bigger issues.
No, I mean politicians are also.
I'll just come back to you, Dr. Gupta. You know, it appears that even institutions like the Parliament are being undermined. Why do you think this is happening?
See, the role of the Parliament is being undermined for various reasons. Take this recent example. Corruption, everybody is against that. And everyone wants a solution to this, to curb the corruption around the country as such. Legislation is the main prerogative of the Parliament. Now, in the recent situation, what is happening is Parliament is not being even allowed to carry out its main role which it is expected to do. And that undermines the very credibility of the Parliament as such.
But why do you think that is happening?
You know, the reasons are number of them. Like, for instance,
well, maybe that's the compulsions of coalition politics, which does not allow checkmating of the corrupt politicians from occupying the high offices.
You know, even the opposition has to realize, yes, oppose what is happening, but at the same time don't lose the track of the basic situation, that we have to ensure that the Parliament is allowed to function. I personally feel that now is a situation where the political parties have to get together. Certain common program has to be worked out. Sit together, work out a common program. The government of the day must ensure that the other political parties also are participants.
Well, I think that looks like a utopian idea, Dr. Gupta, because you're suggesting an all-party government.
No, it's not exactly that. For instance, a political party has a certain program. Now, the program is so structured, is for the common good, for the good of the country at large. Its socio-economic policies are such which would take the country further in that direction, and then motivate the other parties also.
But Dr. Gupta, if the other parties do not agree, how can they join in? I mean, it happened on the nuclear issue, it happened on so many other issues.
I would agree with you on that it is not such an easy exercise that the other parties would agree to that. What I am saying is, opposition for the sake of opposition should not be there.
That's a valid point. Opposition for the sake of opposition should not be there. I'll just come back to you. Mr. Bidrinder Singh, tell us how much of this criticism of the politicians is fair in your opinion? You've been a long-standing politician, you've been an MLA, you've been the Deputy Speaker of the Vidhan Sabha.
I think to a very large extent. And parliamentarians and politicians, they are responsible for this terrible mess. You see, before the emergence of visual media, people of the country didn't know what parliamentarians are doing in Parliament. Now, you see, everybody is so much in touch with the visual media. They see their conduct in the Parliament. Hardly a business is transacted there.
Well, in the states, I think they are having these sessions as for the sake of formality,
yes,
really.
And there is no seriousness.
Bills are passed.
And in state assemblies, you see, I've been presiding over this Punjab Vidhan Sabha. I remember one day we passed 9 bills. 9 bills became act in 15 minutes. Even the minister did not want to speak.
So the whole thing
And
has been turned into a joke.
even the statutory requirement, when the chair has to ask, all those members who are in favor of this bill, please say ayes. Oh, ayes कहने च भी कोई दिलचस्पी नहीं सी रखते, ना noise कहने च कोई दिलचस्पी रखते सी. So I mean, it
So
was
the whole
just
thing was converted into a farce.
yes, it was just a guillotine.
I'll just come back to you. Ratnadeep, what is the perception of today's youth towards the politicians?
So today's youth thinks that politicians, so we as a youth have a mixed kind of perception about the politicians. There are politicians with clean image who enjoy impeccable integrity, and there are politicians who are highly corrupt. But since today's political process is driven more by money and caste, so we cannot say that certain kind of politicians have a clean image and certain are corrupt. So we have a mixed kind of perception about the politicians.
But tell me, Ratnadeep, are the youth today, I think those who are above 18 can vote now, are they looking for a role for themselves?
So as far as casting vote is concerned, we do cast our vote, and people and youth are much aware about the power of voting. But if we have to enter into politics and take politics as a profession, I think youth is not that much active in politics. Because the reason I feel is when right from the childhood, when socialization is done, we are told that politics is a dirty game. So that kind of socialization is done, and so we people do not, we as a youth do not want to participate in politics or do not want to take politics as a profession. This is the reason that today...
No, but Ratnadeep, who tells you that politics is a dirty game? Surely the politicians won't tell you that.
So that's
the perception you form yourself.
So that socialization begins from the family, then from school, then colleges, then the entire society. And then now we have this whole issue of corruption, where politics are all the politicians are actively involved.
Before you go into a break, tell us, since there is a kind of awareness level now which has come about, especially because of the civil society movement, do you think in the elections from now onwards, youth in greater numbers will be voting?
So I feel that since moreover the Election Commission has also taken up the responsibility to enroll the youth into the political process, and moreover through the civil society the youth has become much more aware about their power and about their voice. So I think that the youth will participate more in the political process now, and they will come out in large numbers to vote, and since they see that they can bring a change in the government and in government policies, so they will certainly come out and vote.
Well, that's an interesting point.